declare bankruptcy!
Bears beats Battlestar Galactica.
Depression? Isn't that just a fancy word for feeling bummed out?
Try you ignorant slut! Not only the years we've been at war, but from the moment, as a child, when we realized that the world could be conquered.
You're listening to Great Scott, the Office Podcast. I'm Jay Ray, and with me is my deskmate, Jacob.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
We are here. We are ready to talk about The Office.
At least I am. I don't know if Jay Ray is.
No, it's also, listeners who are dedicated and love our show will know that I moved and I've been in multiple different rooms since I've started recording, and now I'm really close to my final setup here. So I'm in what we are now calling the game room. Right?
Okay.
I have a scissor arm for the Yeti mic that I'm using that is C-clamped to my coffee table where I've got the laptop that is running our chatting software, right?
Right.
I'm using a Logitech webcam that I just have propped up on my fancy tripod that is not connected. It's just sitting on it, and that's leaning kind of awkwardly on the table. I'll show it. It's okay. So there we go. You see, so I got my tripod there sitting on the table that has my feet, and then I got the laptop, and then I got this other laptop in my lap with my notes. So, I mean, it looks real cozy because I'm like hanging out on this couch, but I'm actually like, I feel like I'm in like a TIE fighter,
And if you want to see Jay Ray's setup, you can visit us on our YouTube. And I guess I can show off my setup too. So I'm in what used to be an old wine cellar, so you can see the stuff back here. That's one of my curling brooms. And my very old Asus. Say hi to Jay Ray. Got my mixer over here. And my awesome mic. I got this Audio Technica. That's very nice. And it's just kind of ghetto. And you got all my soundproofing around here. This is my master's hood I got for getting my MBA, and got more soundproofing on the roof. So yeah, that's my setup.
Yeah, that is a reason to tune into the YouTube channel, at least for the first 2 minutes of the show, to check out all this private stuff that we showed you. But
Yep.
yeah, so it's nice because I don't have this leaning tower of tables that I had last week that caused me to have like computers on top of computers. So it feels more comfortable. I just can't move at all. And actually, I can't technically see your face, but I suppose I could do I could switch this. But yeah, anyways, we're doing great. There we go.
Okay.
So yeah.
So we're getting into an interesting section of episodes because we start off with The New Boss, which is written by Lee Eisenberg and Gene Sipinski and directed by Paul Feig, who, these guys have their hands in all these episodes, which makes sense because they almost feel like one large episode instead of four independent episodes.
Right.
So The New Boss is where we start. So yeah, we show up with it's Michael's 15th anniversary party, and so he is like, all right, he wants everything, like all this classical stuff, and Jim, being Jim, is in a full tux.
Not just classical, classy stuff.
Classy stuff,
That's right. Yeah.
And Jim, is just giving Dwight House, is it classy enough? Is it classy enough? And so everything that Dwight says, Jim manages to turn around and get it to Michael as if it's his idea.
Right. Well, and I gotta say, so is that how Jim would actually wear a tux? Because he looks kind of goofy. He's got the slick back hair and stuff, and I feel like... But we've seen him go to parties before, right? He went to that party at David Wallace's that was a little bit fancier.
Right, but it wasn't tux fancy.
That's fair. He just looks kind of goofy. He looks like a James Bond wannabe.
Yeah, but he's also kind of a tall, lanky dude, and tuxes sort of accentuate that kind of stuff. So, John yeah, John Krasinski. I mean, he's what, like 6'2"?
Yeah, no, he's a tall dude. So he's just gonna kind of look lanky regardless, right?
Right, and they don't call them monkey suits for nothing.
That's true. I haven't heard that in a long time, but that is an accurate nickname for
He's
him.
6'3", so yeah, I mean, he's just a tall dude.
Well, and he's like gangly because
Yeah.
I'm 6'3", but I'm a bit thicker. So
Right, because like
I
Rainn
don't
Wilson,
think I look all whoppy. Yeah.
Rainn Wilson is 6'2", so essentially the same height, and he
Right.
doesn't look nearly as tall as Jim does because he's
Yeah.
a bit more beefy. Man, that's tall for Hollywood. Like most people who are actors are pretty short.
Yeah, there's all types of, Tom Cruise is always wearing like 2-inch thick soled boots or something when he's shooting scenes with all like the tall, attractive ladies that are in all of his movies.
Right? Yeah, because Emily Blunt, who is Mrs. Krasinski, is 5'7", and Tom Cruise is 5'7". So anytime, because they were in
Edge of Tomorrow.
Edge of Tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
There's a very similar name, Star Trek the original series, City on the Edge of Forever. That's what I was thinking of, but I
I
couldn't.
see. Very different.
Right. So yeah. Anyway, so he looks like a weird dude, and he eventually just messes with Dwight to the point that he's just pissed off. Right. Um.
Yeah,
So
it's not a bad joke, but this is one of the few cold opens that takes place during that episode, and the repercussions of his jokiness will be seen in the episode, right?
right. Yeah, it's one of the only times where his pranking backfires big time.
Yeah.
So
So
good.
So the shtick of the episode is that we are meeting a new boss for Dunder Mifflin Scranton.
Right.
Idris Elba, who is playing the character of Charles Minor, is coming, and he is, he's basically the new director of sales, which is basically what Jan and Ryan did.
Right.
So he's coming down from New York, and he's apparently making the rounds at all these different locations to, say what's up to all the different branches and get a feel for them, since he's going to be, the next go-to person, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Michael has this very grand, welcoming gesture planned, which are basically bagels cut into C shapes.
Right. Yeah, this is like back when Idris Elba was everywhere, because this was right around the time that Thor came out. I mean, he was doing everything,
Yeah,
and
he was on, like, Prometheus still. around that
yeah,
time.
and there's certain actors that no matter what they do, I always like put in additional things whenever they talk, like Viggo Mortensen. Like whenever he says anything, all I can do is mentally put in Mr. Anderson at the end. So he's like the Red Skull of Captain America. He's like, Captain America, Mr. Anderson, or whatever. And Idris Elba is kind of that way, because I do love the movie Pacific Rim. It's
Sure.
it's not a great movie. Like there's plot holes that you could drive a bus through, but I love it. It's great. But all I can hear is Idris Elba saying Ranger.
Ranger!
That's all I can. I put that at the end of every sentence.
Ranger!
I see. That's why all of this setup has happened, so you could do that.
Yeah.
When I was listening to it before the show started, I thought it was Aaron Eckhart saying Rachel from The Dark Knight.
No.
That's super random.
But he says like Ranger, like at the end of every sentence. It feels like in that movie.
Just a quick edit from what you had said, Mr. Jacob. You said Viggo Mortensen, but I think you meant Hugo Weaving.
Oh, yep. You're right. I meant Hugo Weaving.
I was waiting for an Aragorn quote or something like that, and then you started saying, I was like, wait, he's in the Matrix.
Sorry. Yeah, I can never keep those two together.
They got weird names.
Yeah, it's definitely It's always hard watching V for Vendetta, because all I can see is Agent Smith. You're just an evil program behind that mask. Yep.
Well, I'm listening to one of the audiobooks for Lord of the Rings right now too. So there's a guy who's speaking as Elrond or whatever, and I'm always thinking of Hugo Weaving, and I'm thinking, no, that's what Elrond sounds like, and I'm like, but Elrond looks like Agent Smith. So it's weird because he's supposed to be like this angelic, soft-spoken, elvish man, and I'm still thinking he's a computer virus in the Matrix that's multiplying himself.
Nice, nice.
So we got these C-shaped bagels. No one ends up eating them really, but that's his it's his welcome gift to Charles. He also makes some jokes about how he's Prince Charles Minor. Like he does that thing that he does to Daryl, where he just makes like kind of grasping at straws references to other nicknames.
Right. And you kind of get the feeling because Michael sends Dwight into the break room with everybody and tells them to stall.
Mm-hmm.
You feel like was just like ripping apart bagels really fast in the conference room.
It's true. I mean, because I know we see them, but I'm trying to remember. Because is it two bagel halves, right? And it's just missing a chunk, like Pac-Man style.
Yeah.
It's great.
And so then we get like because apparently Idris Elba, good looking dude. So Kelly's just like, wow, he's like a black George Clooney. Which, you know what? I would watch an Idris Elba helmed remake of Ocean's 11. I'd watch that.
I don't know if I'd watch that. I've seen enough of them. Well, if you want to see Idris Elba in a good crime movie, Rock and Rolla by Guy Ritchie.
It's a good one. Mm-hmm.
It's a good one. Great one. I mean, it's basically Snatched or Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. Just a bigger budget.
Right.
But worth checking out. Yeah, so Charles comes in and, as he introduces himself, Jim, gets this face and he has to approach Michael during some downtime, saying, I wish you had told me that this dude was coming in because I look like an idiot. But of course, because of the joke that he was doing earlier, Michael's like, no, you look great. Dynamite.
Right. Yeah, and he doesn't get it that this could be a bad impression.
Right.
So this obviously goes off really well and gets him and Charles off on a bad foot that is always bad. Like, they never recover, But do you think if Jim had just played it off, like no big deal, if it would have happened? Like, if instead of going to Charles, because he goes to Charles and tries to explain it.
Yeah, that's a good question. Like, if he had, kind of been the guy in the tuxedo, but then stopped trying to, win Charles over.
Right. If he had just not said why he was doing it, just did it. Do you think it would have been so awkward for him?
Yeah, probably not, I guess, because if we think about Stanley, right? Stanley gets caught playing with his crossword puzzles or whatever during one of the meetings in one of these episodes. And Stanley's never in the crosshair the same way that Jim is moving forward. And
Yeah,
I feel
he
like
just
Jim's been digging his own grave a bit, right?
really does not like Jim.
Yeah. But yes, Charles shows up. Yeah,
right.
and he's so there's a lot of changes happening.
Yeah, he's all business. He's not fucking around. He's like, look, no more overtime unless approved by corporate, which is weird because we see it later on where Kevin is asking about overtime, and you would assume they'd be salaried, right? You would assume the accountants would be salaried.
That's a good point.
Because
most of those people probably would be, aside from sales, right?
Right, but well, I wouldn't even be surprised if they have a salary base and then they have commission and not hourly.
Right.
So it seems like the overtime is really bizarre for the office workers because there's an episode, I'm trying to remember exactly which one, but where Michael says he doesn't get paid by the hour, get paid by the year in terms of
Him being salary
and overtime. So it seems just like an odd thing that overtime would really apply because, I'm salary and overtime, there is no such thing as overtime for me.
Yeah, I am not salary. I get paid hourly. And I've been at my job for 6 years. But there are people who are salary there. So I could see, I suppose, depending on how they equate those positions in terms of authoritative stance. Maybe lower level positions would be because Angela's head of the accounting department, right? Maybe she's the only salaried one.
Maybe, but I mean, like I said, it just seemed like odd to me.
Yeah.
Dunder Mifflin is going to be no longer matching their 401k,
Yep.
which that's a pretty big. That's tough. That's a tough one to swallow because that's like the big out of all the benefits out there. That's probably the biggest benefit out there in corporate America. That and like medical insurance.
Right. Right. And then no more other expenses like frivolous spending,
Like parties.
Yeah,
And
that's a big one.
yeah, we get to it later, but I'll get to it now. Where it comes out that Wallace himself killed Michael's party.
Right. Right.
It's like, man, that's a dick move. Like, just give him his party. Come on, I mean, it's his 15th. He has done the shit for the company. He could have sunk Dunder Mifflin when he was with Jam, but he didn't. Like, just give the dude his party. Give him money for his party.
Well, it's crazy too because this season kind of goes out of its way to showcase Michael's kind of savior status to the company, right?
Right.
They have him go on the lecture circuit. He goes on the business trip because this Holly thing is such a blow, and they want to make Michael happy so much so that they'll send him to Canada, for whatever reason. I mean, even the last episode with the golden ticket, ultimately it ended up being a good move that was going to get the creator of the idea some type of reward.
Right.
And that was botched up because Michael's a clown. But, so this whole season, he's really showcasing his essentialness to the company. So to not give him his 15-year thing does seem weird. And Michael's in the total right by the end of this episode when,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is what I like to refer to as a Tiger Woods situation. Because the reason, one of the reasons that Tiger got caught for all of his cheating he was doing was because he just wasn't paying off the one girl who wanted more money. It's like when you're in a position like this, you just got to pay the person to keep them from getting too pissed off.
Well, there you go. Life advice by Jacob.
Hey,
Add it to the wiki. Yeah.
It's not you don't ever want to be there, but if you're there, do it right.
Well, it's true because I think ideally corporate America doesn't want to have an individual in a position who is below them to hold any cards, right? And in this instance, Michael really does hold all these cards.
Right.
So to your point, why not, placate some things even to some small degree so that he doesn't do what he ends up doing that causes the rest of the season to kind of shape the way it is. Yeah.
I know they're, times are tight, which is, pretty normal thing, But could you imagine how happy Michael would have been if David Wallace had called him and be like, hey, we're going to give you $500 extra for your party?
Yeah.
He would have been over the moon.
Right.
And probably would have just not cared too much about what, Charles was doing. At least not right away. He probably would have bought it a lot sooner. So just pay him. Sometimes it's better just to give somebody the money and move on.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. They messed up. Faux show. So let's see. Eventually, the party planning committee meets anyways, right?
Right. The PPC.
Yeah. So everything's kind of weird. Actually, I believe before the PPC meets is that weird interaction where Michael ends up doing the repeat insults, right?
Yes. He skipped the Ace Ventura talking butt, and he never skips it, according to Pam.
Because Kevin goes up to ask for permission to do overtime because he did the first 2 months of the year in the wrong year in their accounting books, right?
Well, yes. You can't do that as an accountant, but we've all made that kind of mistake where we're looking at the wrong calendar,
right,
whatnot.
Right.
But
So Charles overhears it. Michael, trying to pull some type of power move, says, "It's cool. You know, you
Right.
don't need corporate permission. It's just mine." Right, and then he does the repeat what Charles says thing.
And everyone's like, dude, stop, stop,
Yeah.
stop. It's real
And
bad.
he's like, "You have to stop what you are doing." Yeah. So it diffuses only in that Michael says he's kidding and then calls for the party planning committee. And for whatever reason, against better judgment, Pam and Jim go in there.
Right. Maybe it's sort of a, trying to get back to business as usual kind of move where they're just like, well, let's see what happens. I mean, I
Yeah.
can understand Pam doing it because she's not really going to get in any trouble, right? I mean, she's just a secretary,
Right. Presumably based
Or-
on
or
how
very
it's
little
set up
trouble.
for time is less valuable. Yeah.
Right. Well, and she's not sales, right?
And again, Michael as being the boss, everything could be blamed as Michael is telling them to do this thing.
Right. But yeah, exactly. So, but I mean, Mike or Jim would obviously get more in trouble than Pam would.
Right. So he asks Phyllis, Charles asks Phyllis, what is the PPC? And Phyllis is kind of feeling still a little burned about
Yeah,
the
just
whole...
threw everyone under the bus.
Yeah.
And
So
we
he comes
learned
in,
about multiple
reverse petting zoo.
multiple cakes with multiple strippers holding multiple cupcakes,
Right.
and the reverse petting zoo where the animals pet you back,
Yeah.
which I have no idea what that would look like. Like what
Yeah.
like I mean, we've all seen those gifs where the animals like curl up with the people, but I'm not sure how you would pull off a reverse petting zoo.
Yeah. I don't know, but I bet you that was about as far as they got in its explanation. And Michael was just like, "I'm sold. Let's do it. Done. Great idea."
Yeah. There's I know a lot of zoos do this, but you can do this behind the scenes, get to play with the animals tour at the San Diego Zoo. So one year we're actually going to do that, but that's way down the line because it's not cheap. But it would be really cool to like go chill with the tigers and shit, assuming they don't like eat my face.
I was gonna say, yeah, there's a caveat there for sure.
So one thing we do learn about Charles Minor is that he comes out of steel, which
Sequoia steel.
which Michael originally thinks is just like, I don't know what he thought it was, but he started talking about how like, oh, African Americans have such great names for things.
Well, because so he says. So after he has a phone call with David, where David is like really firm about you have to talk to Charles. Charles is now your guy who will answer things.
Right.
Michael decides to call this meeting to kind of get to know each other, and that's where he kind of goes on to a bit where he says Ryan only came to do his laundry, and Jan came when she was feeling a little frisky. So he's like the first thing he's like is tell me something that you've never told anybody, and then he starts rattling off things. So one is what's your wife's name, followed by where did you work previously. So Michael, for whatever reason, thinks he's answering question number 2 as opposed to question number 3 or whatever. And it's,
I guess, yeah. So, I mean, but
Michael's a racist, right? He doesn't understand other cultures aside from his own. So
right, and like Minor coming. It's weird saying mine than steel. It's just throwing my head off. But Charles Minor coming out of steel actually really does inform his personality a bit. Because if you have people goofing off in a steel mill, people die.
Right.
Right. So, it makes sense that someone who was, granted, he came out of accounting, but still.
Right.
Steel places tend to be a bit more no nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
Especially anywhere with production facilities in general, where people can really get hurt.
Right.
I'm not saying, the baler won't eat somebody, but it's not as likely that the baler will eat somebody as something bad happening in a steel mill.
Right. Yeah, that's fair.
We finally get to this retcon we've been talking about forever, where Jim comes in trying to smooth it over with Minor again, And he's like, yeah, I'm the, as the number two. And me, and Charles says, I didn't know that position existed. So maybe, as in the reorg, they just moved Jim and didn't tell him. I mean, that's possible. But, Jim's like trying to explain it. And we know for a fact that Jim had number 2 level power. It happens. We see it in season 3. We see it in season 4 when they go the job in job fair because because Dwight says when Michael's gone, Jim's in charge. When Jim's gone, I am in charge, and I say we're staying until 5 or whatnot.
Right.
So it's really bizarre that this is a retcon to me.
Yeah, I don't. I remember the first time watching it too. I was like confused. I was like, is Jim just really poorly explaining it, and Charles just doesn't know? And then why isn't Jim more forceful about it? Like, why is he explaining it so stupidly? Because he's like, it was a made-up position for Dwight, but then I took it over, as opposed to explaining that he was the number 2 in Stanford, and then was offered the number 2 to come back to Scranton. Like,
right, because if you had said when they merged the branches, I was put in as the second in command by Jan.
Right.
And I mean, unless something happened with Ryan, where Ryan demoted him, which I could see happening.
Right. But that's the thing that happens during that episode with the golfing.
Right. So, yeah, I'm just not sure what happened there.
Yeah, it's weird.
Dear office writers, dear Gene Stupinski, please explain this to me.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like another one of those things where they wanted to do the callback to Assistant 2, right?
Right.
And they wanted to really make sure that the audience was aware that Charles and Jim aren't going to get along.
Right.
Kind of at the expense of, like, this whole story arc.
Well,
yeah, it's weird.
I mean, there's definitely a watershed between 4 and 5, because we do get some new writers and things. And so there's a lot of retcons in season 5 that hold true through 9. I mean, there's a very distinct break in continuities between 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5 through 9.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even the show feels a lot different. Like, I was noticing while watching these episodes.
Right.
Is that the way they end episodes gets a lot different. It becomes a lot different. Like, yeah, they just end differently, and like they just have a different feel to them. So the end of the episode kind of rolls around, and Michael's like, he just berates Charles because he's all pissed off at him. Saying that, look, Wallace canceled your party. Tough luck. This is how things are going to be. Let's do, and he's like, do you even know how paper is made? You don't put it in a furnace. If you did, it would burn.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm going to New York City. So he barges in looking for Wallace, and he finds him in the executive washroom. And he's like, oh, is this the meeting you've been?
Yeah.
And Mike just quits. Like, David tries to placate him, and he's just like, nope, I quit. Screw you, I quit.
You have no idea how high
I can
fly. Yeah, and it's just another weird situation. So, I talked about watching Jim bury himself deeper, and it's just really weird and frustrating to watch, which is kind of the essence of The Office, right? The Office was bringing back that really awkward workplace kind of aesthetic that we're all used to, but we're allowed to laugh at. So we see Jim do this, and then we kind of see David do it too, where he is just totally missing the point of Michael showing up. And to be fair, I don't think Michael really understood the full extent of how upset he was and why he was upset, right?
Right.
He thinks it's just because he doesn't want to work with Charles the way that it seems to be established. But as David is kind of explaining how he's like, he gets it, have the figs, whatever, Michael is realizing that, like, he's not being treated with that respect that someone of his status should be treated as within this company.
Right. And even though there is sort of that hierarchy with that VP in the middle, I mean, it's like you said earlier, it's been so established in this season that basically Michael is propping the company up. Like Scranton Branch, because it now holds, a big territory, is the branch in the company. They're the only one making money.
Right.
So and Michael's gone to bat for the company so many times that he feels like, and so I can understand how he feels, right? Like I said earlier, Wallace went to Michael and put the pressure on him to not sell out Dunder Mifflin for the money, because I think, if Michael doesn't do what Michael does, Jan wins.
Right.
And it probably sinks Dunder Mifflin sooner, because a $4 million settlement, it's not a ton of money in corporate America, but, when you're struggling like that, it's a lot of money.
Well, and then, I guess it would depend what the rules were around that particular case in terms of what could be known publicly. But if that settlement was released to the public, and we know they have shareholders, 'cause it's
Right.
a publicly traded company, seeing this kind of inner turmoil with ex-employees suing the company could also kind of like,
Oh, it'd be
taint-
right, especially for firing, quote unquote, firing somebody for getting their boobs done, look
Right,
really bad on the
discrimination.
company.
yeah.
I don't.
For goodness sakes, Michael put off having a family, Jacob.
I know.
He didn't have kids.
Wallace just looks at him like,
He's like, we never asked you to do this.
but that there is probably. There goes the webcam. There's probably some truth to Michael putting Dunder Mifflin in front of dates and stuff. Granted, we probably not too often, but you could see it where he puts more time into the company than his personal life.
Right. And, to be fair, there is some delusion there, right? How he treats the employees as like his family per se. But, it's just true that Michael lives and breathes Dunder Mifflin,
Right.
So, yeah, this kind of slight is just kind of the last straw on the whole thing. And it's a nice moment. There's not a lot of times where Michael is an adult and does adult things in his own, like, actual good interest. So to see him do it is just kind of like a nice thing. And he has that moment where he closes the door and he, like, waves, because it's not like a hateful thing that he's doing, Like, obviously he's mad, but it's not like because he, thinks this place is the worst place. It's just like they no longer see eye to eye. So he gives us a nice little innocent wave through the glass and walks away because, like, Michael's a nice guy. Maybe racist, maybe a little less salty. Probably would have gotten fired if people were paying attention, but he's a nice guy.
Yeah. So he quits, and that's pretty much the end of the episode.
We get to see the last bit where Kelly and Angela are running around the parking lot in the rain with a scarf, trying to return it to Charles
So apparently Kelly is dumpster diving when in terms of companionship, according to Angela.
Well, she would be the dumpster, or the contents of the dumpster, but right. Charles is going the dumpster diving.
Right. And
Yeah.
so, like, I don't know. It just seems odd. Like, I get why Angela would be attracted to him, and not just because it's Idris Elba, but she likes powerful men with strong, powerful men. That's really her thing, and so this is this vice president, and she's single, and he's single, and all this kind of stuff. So the attraction there makes sense from Angela's part, and on Kelly's part, because Kelly just really likes hot people. So.
Right.
And Ryan, apparently.
And it's been established that Angela's got a thing for, like, men, right?
Right.
When Dwight's, like, being a mean man to Meredith's kid, or anytime that there's, like, a sign of authority, which Charles definitely shows, especially when Michael loses his cool before Charles does. Yes, it's definitely part of it. According to the Office Wikia, it says there's two goofs in this episode. Number one being this whole number two position discrepancy that we were talking about. So we're not the only people, Jacob. A lot of people are very concerned about it. The second one, apparently, many fans were under the assumption that Michael said, "I acquit," when he quit. And Jenna Fisher's MySpace blog had to confirm that Michael did, in fact, say, "I quit." So I'll have to rewatch
Yeah,
that
that's a
episode.
blasty from the pasty.
I know.
MySpace blog.
I mean, what was this? 2009. So this is like near the end. I mean, Facebook is 2-3 years in, and it's becoming like a thing. So
I got my Facebook like in like 2005, 6. So by this point, they're pretty much the de facto.
Yeah.
So
anyways,
what are you gonna give this episode?
Jacob. I think I'm just going to give it like a nice even 3 out of 5. I acquits. It's good and it's got a lot of good story stuff, but the whole I don't like seeing people sad. So most of the stress that Michael feels throughout the episode isn't super fun to watch, but it's a well done episode and it takes the show into a direction that I don't know if it needed to go, but I mean, it sets up a lot,
Right, and that's probably this is a setup episode. This kicks off the rest of the season essentially. Every episode from here to the end of the season is really kicked off because of this episode. It sets all the players in place. We get Michael quitting, so Michael Scott Paper Company, et cetera, et cetera. So I gave it a 3 out of 5 C-shaped bagels.
Nice.
It's got some ratingception in there if anyone's a fan of Community.
So up next we've got episode 21, 2 Weeks, written by Aaron Shore and directed by Paul Lieberstein.
So even this is a bit of a retcon, right? Because Michael did not give his 2 weeks. He quit.
Right.
So unless there was something in there about, hey, would you please stay for the 2 weeks so we can get, do the transition?
That's what I do assume, is that there was a conversation after where someone from David's office pleaded with Michael to be like, hey, do this thing. But right. The way it's phrased, he said, I quit. So
I quit, yes. And this is essentially, even with the way it opens, is essentially part 2 of New Boss. Mm-hmm. Right? Because it opens with Michael telling this story, and he's just drawing it out for everything he can.
Right.
There's this great talking head with Pam, which is like, he has a story we all want to hear, and she knows it.
Well, the way she phrases it too is like, it sounds like Michael's always trying to tell stories, but they end with like such nonsense.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I feel like they're probably stories that end halfway through this story, like where he says, well, I was in the wrong building. And like that would normally be his punchline. But here it's like an additive kind of detail that people are like on the edge of their seat to hear.
Right, and Oscar is all about, he's like, I love a good quitting story. It makes me feel like I have power.
I know, that's such a bummer line. I feel that way too.
All right, but here's my question about Oscar. Why doesn't he quit? I mean, he's from all indications a very talented accountant.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're in college looking for a degree, listeners, and you want to make good money, just go be an accountant. I mean, that's just all it is. I mean, he could probably walk into a job the next day with as many years experience as he has and everything else. So I don't get why he doesn't just move on. He's good with his money, all that other stuff, so.
Well, I will say, I mean, in this episode, we're introduced to a man who is interviewing for regional manager. And he exclaims himself how difficult it is for people looking for a job, and he's actually from Philadelphia, I think.
Right, but even in this point in time, getting an accounting job was pretty easy. I mean, that was one of the few jobs that there's just always jobs for.
Well, so my mom recently moved to Wilkes-Barre.
Okay, is she going to be a Wilkes-Barre Screen hockey fan?
Well, my brother has also moved out, which is why I have this fancy room, and so he went to Steamtown Mall over the weekend and was just sending me pictures of all the different places in there, and he was just like, send a picture with a caption from the show. That's all he was doing all weekend.
That's awesome.
He sent a picture of the Electric City sign and all that jazz, but what I think is, I mean, it's still a pretty secluded area, you know, so. Obviously there's like all the different types of businesses in that office park that I assume he could apply to.
Right.
But how many like corporate places
I mean,
are out there?
I mean, he doesn't have
you're in
Gil
Pittsburgh,
anymore.
I'm 5
He's
minutes out of
talked
the
about
city.
transferring already.
Right.
It seems like, I don't know, it just seems odd to me. It seems like if he really wanted a new job, which I think that's the issue, is he doesn't really want a new job.
Right.
But it just seems like if he wanted one, he could do it.
Yep. That's fair. What are you saying? I don't want a new job, Jacob?
No, I'm just saying.
You're trying to psychoanalyze me, bro?
I'm trying to psychoanalyze a fictional character.
All right. Well, I see too many parallels. I too am brown, and my talents would be used during baseball season. All right, so he's telling this story, and he's in the wrong building. Doesn't know how to use a sliding door. Finally quits. Everybody's oohed and awed. Oscar's very sad, just like me. And so he's in this like 2-week senioritis kind of.
Right. Well, he's already done a week, so a week has passed since he gave his notice. So this is the Monday of week number 2, and he is drunk.
He's drunk. His tie is askew. His hair is unkempt. He's just fucking with people everywhere. He's putting his glass in front of their face, and he's making jokes. And it's crazy because he does seem to have like a slight fear of Charles. But Charles is like just in the next room,
Right.
So Michael's like, I don't know. I guess there must be a bit of confidence coming with like knowing you're out of there. There's not much they could do to you otherwise.
Right.
But like, I mean, fireable offense, right?
Oh, yeah. That's something I was going to bring up is like, if he wanted cause to fire him, being drunk at work is cause. Unless there's some odd rule about not about it at Dunder Mifflin, but I mean, every job I've ever worked, that was a big no-no.
Yeah. So he's like bugging people or whatever, and Jim eventually is like, "Why don't you try to find a job?" And Michael goes on this bit about how a person of his caliber is already being headhunted, right?
Right.
That people are aware that he's available and will be calling him any minute with all types of wonderful job opportunities or whatever.
Again, showing that Michael has no idea how the job market works.
Yeah.
Do we know how old Michael is here? He's what, 40-ish?
40 something, yeah.
So he's essentially been with Dunder Mifflin since his mid to late 20s.
Yeah. If we assume he's on the early side of 40, it's probably like 25 or so when he started working there.
Yeah, so he's does no idea what's going on. He thinks way too much of himself. I mean, honestly, if he were to really try, he probably would get some calls. Not in this point in our country's history because of the recession.
Right. I'm looking at your notes here, Jacob, and you got Scotch and Splenda.
Yeah.
I'm not a big drinker, but apparently you also believe that Michael has bad taste in Scotch.
Well, if you look at we see him with Scotch a few times. In this episode, if you look at the Scotch he has, I'm pretty sure it's in a plastic jug. Like, I mean,
Okay.
it's a label I don't recognize.
Right.
And it's large, which, like, I was at this bar once. Here, Jacob Storytime. I was at this bar once, and the owner and a friend of his got into a bad shot off. Like, they were buying each other terrible shots to basically to see who would win. And the winner was, I don't remember who it was, gave the other one McCormick Scotch, which is jug Scotch. And he was like, nope. Like, he took a sniff of it and was like, nope, you win. I'm not even touching it. But in next season, whenever Holly comes back in Classy Christmas, he has Johnny Walker Black Label, which is okay, but I don't like mixed malt scotches, which Johnny Walker is. So yeah. And who the fuck puts Splenda in scotch?
Because is he drinking scotch when he's at David Wallace's place and he's drinking that thing from?
Yes, from Lehigh Cocoa. Well, and the
Yeah,
thing with scotch is, depending on how it's made, it can taste really different. You know, 'cause if it's really high in like peat moss, it's like super smoky. I mean, and other times it's more like a general whiskey. So depending on which one you get, you know, whatever. But still, you don't do that to scotch, man. At least good scotch. But he didn't have good scotch, so maybe it's okay. I don't know.
All right. No, hey, listen. It's important I learn these things. I've had a best damn cherry soda in the fridge for like 5 months because I like soda, and I thought, hey, if I like soda, maybe soda will make me like alcohol. And it's fine, but I'd rather just a regular cherry cola beverage instead of this monstrosity of a soda.
Yeah,
And,
I've never been able to do that. I mean, granted, I do like my booze quite a bit, but I never liked alcoholic sodas, like hard sodas. No, like give me, yeah, I just couldn't do it. Like even people like, oh yeah, Jack and Coke. I'm like, no, don't ruin my Coke. This is a good Coke. Give me the Jack,
Exactly.
and I'll shoot it, and I'll sip on the Coke. Cause
sip on the Coke. Yeah, I feel similarly. I'd rather take a shot of something because it's over quicker, and then I could just kind of enjoy my soda.
yeah, I don't
That's all I
know.
want.
Yeah, I've never been that kind of guy. Like if we're gonna do mixed drinks, like don't just do like liquor and soda. Like I like a good Long Island that has a little Coke in it, but it's not a big, you know, it's not much Coke.
I have many a memory of friends being very inebriated with Long Island iced teas from college because it was one drink but a lot of alcohol.
Yes, yes.
So I aside from I know it doesn't taste anything like iced tea. That's all I know.
No, it's super
very
yummy though.
yucky.
But
Get out of here, man. Get out. Okay. Anyways, so eventually Michael starts to look for jobs, and he's got a long list
Yep.
of all of the head honchos in the area of places he could work. So he dials a number and rings it, and we are introduced to a voicemail message from Prince Family Paper.
and it's so sad. Like you can tell, like the guy's like starting to cry, and
Yeah. Well, and then it ends with like his granddaughter going, "Bye," right? Like cute little kid nonsense or whatever. But they have shut down because of Dunder Mifflin's efforts to take their customers. And when we look back at Michael's list and he crosses Prince Family Paper out, it just says other companies. So his long list is not that long.
right,
and then-
and you know there
So he
can't
tries
be.
to go to a website, monsters.com.
Jesus
right?
shouts out, "It's monster singular." It's just like deadpan. Thank you.
Yeah, so he starts. So he's looking for a job now, and I think at some point we meet this fellow on the couch who is there to interview for his position. And as I said, he's from far away, and he kind of puts it in Michael that like
It's
this could
bad
be a
out
bad
there.
move.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Then we've got a B storyline here.
Right. Pam with the printer or copier. So they have enough money to buy a very nice copier. Which, you know, that's just one of those things you got to do. I mean, this is a business. They have to use those things. So So I guess within a few episodes, or let's see, I guess within about a year or so, yeah, within about a year, they get new chairs and the new copier that they were debating about. Actually,
Yeah.
no, it's the
No,
surplus.
it's the
So
same season,
December to
That's
March.
episode 10.
So 4 months. So everyone got what they wanted pretty easily. So
Well, I guess presumably because they had a surplus on that budget that was ending that day. So this copier, I suppose, is part of the following year's budget.
right, it is. It is.
But to your point, Oscar and Pam both won what they wanted.
Right.
Yeah. So good job, team. But so Pam is tasked with the fun job of setting up the whole GD thing. So she's got this huge book. She's she's removing all of the fancy saran wrap and all the cracks and crevices. She's basically just calibrating it for the office to use.
Printers, they're used every day in America. I mean, we use them all the time, right?
Right.
Even the good ones are still terrible. Like, I don't get how people can produce such shoddy things. Like, I cannot tell you how many times, I work for a Fortune 500 company, and my printer works about half the time. And we got one of those big ones, like they sort of had at, Dunder Mifflin. It's like, what the hell is going on here?
No, it's true. I mean, we got two of them, and one of them prints these mysterious yellow marks randomly on the paper as if there's a tiny magical printer dwarf who has a highlighter, and he's just all like highlighting random shit. And it's terrible, but it's a big ass printer, and it costs a lot of money, and it costs money to get tech support. And
hey, maybe you've got like a portal to another dimension in there, and you just don't know it, and like you're getting.
I don't want it. I just want a clean piece of paper.
Maybe you're just really ruining this elf's day randomly because his paper's just shooting through his dimension.
Yeah, he's all like, "Oh shit, another paper." So let's see. So Michael's looking for a job. Oh, so okay, no. So Pam's doing this thing, and Kevin keeps bothering her. Right? He keeps trying to use the damn thing, and it's clearly not functional yet.
Right.
And he says, "You said be ready today." And she's like, "Soon." And he's like, "Well, soon could be 2 weeks. Is that what soon means to you, Kevin?" Sometimes. And then it'll be ready. Then come back soon. And she says it with that same kind of vicious tone that she speaks to Jim in the surplus, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's not having none.
So she's working at it, and eventually Dwight ends up coming by to help.
Right. And we find out that his German is mostly pre-industrial and mostly religious.
Yeah.
Even though we
right, 'cause he
learned
calls
in
something
like
awful.
the next episode or in 2 episodes that he can sing Country Roads in German.
In German, yeah.
So Michael decides he's going to start the Michael Scott Paper Company. He's trying to get Jim's attention. So he threw like a koosh ball, like a hacky sack. It was really weird. If you look in the background, I feel like there's probably a deleted scene for this. But Pam is holding this giant canister of what looks like some kind of pressurized gas.
Right.
Which I don't know why. Because, I mean, maybe I'm just not knowing things here, but I don't think you would put a giant can of some kind of pressurized gas in a copier printer. I mean, maybe I'm wrong there, and people on Reddit and email can correct me, but it just does not seem like something you would do. But it's seriously like probably 1.5 feet tall on her desk. She's just sitting there holding this canister.
I mean, is it possible it's just an oversized air compressor?
Maybe, but I mean, you can definitely see the binder of instructions on her desk. So
Right.
It has something to do with the copier. It just looked really out of place.
Well, she's an expert. She
becomes an expert.
Yeah, so I wouldn't question it, Jacob. You might find yourself in the ground. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Because Pam's OG like that, OG printer.
Right, and so Michael comes out. He's like, yeah, he starts talking to Pam. He's like, "Oh, y'all are talking pillow talk." It's like 20 minutes later after he's been talking to Jim.
Right.
And he does the whole, if I put this over the label and it says Mike Scott Paper Company, would that work? She's like, yeah, probably would.
Well, because she's like, you can Photoshop it and do all this like easy stuff, and he's like, okay, but what if I just use tape?
Yeah, and this is another thing. Even back in like '09, when this was shot, if you, well, and you could also Google, if you, or even Alta Vista if you're in Pawnee, Indiana. If you did that, Microsoft has a dozen different templates for purchase orders that are just free. Like, that's it. That's all you gotta do. Download them, put your name in, and you're ready to go. So like, there's no like, he's just, I don't know. He's being Michael and not thinking,
Yeah. Okay, I've been silent. I just pulled up the scene on my Chromebook here. Chromebook, give me money. I'm looking at Pam and this container, and actually what it looks like is it might be ink.
That's ink?
Yeah, well, at least our printers, you do the CMYK, and they're all separate canisters. Canisters is probably not right, but it's a big plastic cylinder. This looks really thick, but again, our printer's probably a bit cheaper than what they've got going.
Man,
But,
that's
I
a
think
fuck
that's
ton
what
of
it is.
ink.
It's a lot. It's a lot. I mean, that should last them a good amount of time. I mean,
What's
they
the
should have
what's
to
the
change
timestamp on that?
it. 1525.
All right, so if you're out there and listening and want to weigh in, 1525. I'm assuming you're on Netflix.
Yeah, that's right.
On Netflix, 15 minutes and 24 seconds. If you can weigh in on what the fuck Pam is holding, we would very much appreciate it.
Yeah, please. Okay. So, back to our regularly scheduled podcast.
And this continues over where Kelly, like, she's just trying to run game on Charles Minor. Like, she's like talking about how like she's got to go visit her sister and pick her up and leave early. They're super tight, like the Kardashians.
Yeah, I mean, it's like she is like not reading Charles at all. Oops. I feel like out of the two of them, Angela and Kelly, Angela probably has the better chance because she acts like an adult woman.
Right, and then Angela comes in wanting to go to this accounting seminar, which was really fun last year.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing too, especially I think in a workplace romance kind of situation, having only known him for a week. All Angela knows about the dude is that he used to be like all of his work stuff,
Right.
So she's trying to like strike up the romantic conversation based on their accounting history, as if that's like what lets the sparks fly.
And then we get the iconic Charles Minor quote, right? Yes, I am aware of the effect I have on women.
Yeah, yeah.
It's so good. He's just so deadpan. He's like, yep, I'm hot. I know it.
And I gotta say, Idris Elba does a very good American accent.
Yes,
I think it took forever for me to realize he was British. I think I saw him in Rock and Rolla and was like, oh, he has a really good British accent. But he's a British dude.
Yeah, I think this is really the first time I realized who he was in this.
Right.
I think I'd seen him in other stuff, but this is the first time I was like, oh, Idris Elba is Charles Minor.
Right, right.
And then he went up
that's
to
an
be
office
like
thing for
the
you.
most
Yeah.
popular person ever.
I know. The next, he won't be because of racism, but the next James Bond. So Michael's been escorted out, but he sneaks back into the office, right?
Right. I think it's funny he brings Hank up.
Yeah. And Michael thinks he's like, you're going to have Hank escort me, Hank? Take Charles away, as if like he's a king. And
Right.
Hank is like a palace guard or something. But he gets escorted out, and it's all very sad. He doesn't get to say his goodbyes or whatever. But he comes back a-crawling below the window line so that Charles can't see him outside of the conference room.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I know, it's nuts. I mean, that's some athleticism on Steve Carell's part. It's not super easy to crawl that way. I mean, he was doing
Oh
like the
yeah,
roly poly crawl, but
he totes just ruined that suit. Just
yeah,
done.
it's gone. So he is trying to go to the accounting department to get some paperwork. Angela's not having it because apparently Angela, Kevin, Meredith, and Creed were not invited to join the Michael Scott Paper Company.
Right,
I think
and
that's
Angela would have. I really wish Michael would have asked her just to see her put down,
right.
because it would have been very snarky and very mean and hilarious, probably.
Which is probably why he didn't ask her. Didn't ask Kevin because he thinks Kevin's a dum-dum, but different. So he doesn't get the paperwork, then he starts calling through sales, and he's trying to get people's attention. And Jim still says no. And eventually he is leaned up against that weird little cabinet against the conference room.
Mm-hmm.
And he gives an impassioned speech about, are you doing the best you could do here? And this is a new start and, all this stuff. But Pam's been having this conflict with the printer all day that some of these words are connecting with her on an emotional level.
Right, 'cause she doesn't want to. She doesn't want to be doing printers all day, right?
Right. Now she's just really good at her job because she can print fancy things now.
Right.
And, so Michael, in a desperate attempt to acquire employees for his budding business, he grabs Phyllis's chair and tries to very casually yank her across the floor. Yeah. So Charles looks up and he sees Phyllis kind of like floating, struggling to, not move. And he comes out and Michael's on the floor and they have this altercation where it looks like Charles is going to beat the crap out of Michael. Right?
I kind of feel bad for Charles Minor here because Wallace tried to prep him, but you also know there's no way in hell he was prepped for this.
No, it's true. But I feel bad for Michael, not because he doesn't deserve the aggression, but because he's so dumb. He doesn't realize that his actions are calling for Charles to be as mad as he is at him,
Right.
Michael's like walking around and he's been at this place for 15 years and he's like, this is like my second home. So he's like doing what he does. So to have like, it's like if we were kids and our parents were to kick us out of our home,
Right.
So I feel bad for Michael a little bit, but he deserved it. And if they were playing by flinching rules, Michael would get one for flinching. So Michael throws all the paperwork he stole on the floor and he walks out and Charles slams the door. It's all very awkward, but then Pam has this face of resolve.
She's like, I can't, what'd she say?
She goes, uh-oh.
Oh, right.
And Jim's like, what? And she's like, I'm going with him. And she runs out. So Jim follows and, there's this nice moment between the three of them because, they're our main characters. So that's why they had to do it. But Pam says she wants to come and she wants to be a salesperson. She doesn't want to be an assistant anymore. And Michael agrees. And
well, she's like, I don't want to be a secretary. Okay, executive assistant.
Right. As if it was like the name of the position was what annoyed her.
Right.
Michael's like, oh, Pam's like, all my stuff's upstairs. And Michael's like, are people watching? And they look up and the entire office is there, even Charles, right?
Yeah, he kind of pokes.
So Jim says he'll get Pam's stuff, and Pam and Michael walk away. And Jim's like, I'm still not going with you. And even in that moment, too, I mean, again, Jim's already on terrible footing, but I feel like even just going outside at all, like, regardless of the fact that Pam is his fiance, Charles would also chalk that up to being, like, chummy with the enemy,
Right. Yep. Yeah, we kind of roll up the episode with Minor giving this, talk about, like, hey, I had some turnover from the time being. Kevin, you're on the phone. Stanley, I want you to be my productivity czar, which he only did because Stanley is black and he's black.
Is that why you think so?
I mean, that's what I think, yeah.
I figured maybe it was because he was one of the older folks in the office. I think we've established that Phyllis is as old as Michael.
Right.
And I think because of Creed's position, he wouldn't be considered for it. Creed's kind of like Toby in that he kind of works in a larger scope than just the office.
Hmm.
So I think Stanley maybe it was because he was older, but you could go with he's black, maybe. I don't know. Could be. Yeah, but then so everybody leaves the room, and Kevin and Stanley just have this face like, oh shit. Like, what did we get ourselves into?
Right. So, what do you give this episode?
Um, it's a bit better than the last episode in terms of fun factor.
Okay,
Though
I'll give you
though
that.
the sad moments are also there and also make me feel uncomfortable. But I will, give it a little bit more props. So I'm going to give it a 3.3 out of 5 monsters.com.
This episode is just, it's more setup. I mean, it's a bridge episode. I mean, that's really just how this is. It's a bridge episode. So I give this a 2.9 out of 5. Tastes like Splenda. It's good, not great. It's a funny jokes. We get the, we get Michael Scott Paper Company started. It's more or less. Michael's gone. Pam goes with him, et cetera, et cetera.
Right. All right. So episode 22, Dream Team. This one is written by B.J. Novak, directed by Paul Feig. And what is really interesting is that this episode is one of the only episodes of the series to get a really unique intro. No, my God, I'm lying. It's okay. Jacob's not here. He doesn't even know. He won't even hear this part. I'm going to keep going. Okay, so it's not that. But that's the next episode. We'll talk about it. Don't worry, guys. We're fine. So Dream Team, the premise is that Michael is now starting his company, and it's him and Pam, and they're going to go out and find the team that is going to make the Michael Scott Paper Company the super success that Michael knows it's going to be. So Pam gets all dressed up, and she heads over to Michael's place where she knocks. The door opens, and she is greeted by Michael in his robe.
And she asks, "Are you wearing anything else under that?" And he's like, "Oh, we're getting off topic."
Yeah, yeah. It's an awkward thing. Michael is definitely in the wrong here. He probably should have put pants on.
Oh yeah, but I don't know. Like we've talked about this before, but like there's a weird thing there. Like I don't know. Like I think Michael wants to think that he would that something would start and he would turn her down or something. I don't know. Like there's just something weird there between Michael and Pam.
There is something weird between them, and I think Michael definitely would do Pam. But I think in this situation, I think he's more depressed than anything. So that's his depressed clothes. He's like, well, what's the point of putting pants on? But I digress. So Charles is in charge of the Scranton branch now, and he's in Michael's office, and that's the whole thing. So this episode follows those two paths. Michael and Pam getting the dream team together, and Charles and everybody kind of acclimating to him being the new official boss.
Right, until they can find Michael's replacement.
Right, because presumably he's still the sales director for all of the branches, right?
Right.
But he's fortunate enough to be able to be working in Scranton with all those fine people. So Michael's having a lot of trouble, right? He's making French toast.
French toast.
Yeah.
It's like,
Lots of French
toast. What shape would you like it to be? Square.
I wonder if he's good at shapes. Like if she had asked for something more complicated, would he have impressed us?
I don't know. If you had if you could pick a shape of French toast, what would it be?
Well, so I have a sugar skull mask on my wall across from me. So I would say maybe a Halloween themed skeleton or something.
Would you have to do layers and carve it out, or are you talking just like make it look like on the square bread like a sugar skull mask.
Oh, so that's what I got.
Right.
It's fancy. No, but I'm thinking, well, I mean, if this was pancakes or something, it'd probably be like a large cookie cutter shape that you pour the batter into.
Okay.
Because it's bread, yeah, I would imagine maybe it's just the regular bread and then cookie cutted the shape out of it or whatever. But he has no such tools. He's just a man with a mixer and tons of eggs and tons of bread.
Yeah, I
And
mean, there's like at least a dozen eggs in
yeah,
that bowl that
yeah.
that he eventually.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know why he asks, but because maybe he's like, I can make a rectangle by putting two pieces together. Um, so Pam tries to get him to stop. There's a short but decisive battle over the mixing bowl, and Michael, pour one out, gets eggs in his Crocs, which is just like the worst thing. He deserves it for wearing Crocs.
Right, and so Michael starts freaking out because there's just so much to do, right? Which,
Yeah.
I can understand. In his position, he's got a billion things to do, right? And so it's hard just to say, okay, we need to do X, Y, then Z.
Right, right. So Pam's like, let's make a list. And then make a list, and one of the first things on that list is to acquire a sales team.
Right,
So they're
a
going
dream
some
team.
all-stars, a dream team, yeah.
Yeah, Vikram from the telemarketing and Ryan. And, of course, Pam rejects Ryan.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, Vikram is like a nice surprise. He says Vikram, and they get him, and he's like, we got Vikram. Yeah, they got me. And so he gets in the car, and it's nice to see Vikram. He's a breath of fresh air. But Ryan is the surprise. He pulls over. Michael pulls over at a bowling alley to use the restroom, and it's taking a long time. And Vikram says, "Is it possible he's bowling?"
And Pam is like, yes, it is actually possible he's bowling.
So she goes inside to check, and hopefully that he's not bowling. And we find out that Michael's talking to Ryan to convince him to work for the paper company.
Right.
He's got bleach blonde hair. He's working behind the counter as a quote unquote shoe bitch. And things kind of come to blows, and Ryan's like, "Eff it, I'm out of here." So he grabs shoes for his friends, his saviors.
And apparently Pam has big feet. Like, he looks at Pam's feet like, what are those, a men's size 10?
I know, because Michael right after says he's only a 9 or something.
Right.
Yeah, so nuts. But so they take the shoes, they make it into the car, so now they've got their dream team assembled. And they head off to the next point on the list, which is an investment meeting.
Right.
So, well, before we get there, we'll hop back real quick, and we find out at the office that Andy's doing his old yes man thing. And he has artfully put a series of soccer or football themed wallpapers.
Right, doing what he does.
Yeah, and gets Charles's attention, and they have a little back and forth about how much they love the beautiful game, I think it's referred to as.
Right.
And Andy in the talking head's like, I hate soccer, but he knows how to play his boss as well. So everybody starts talking about how much they love soccer, and like Stanley's like clearly reading from a piece of paper at some point about how he loves Diego Maradona or something.
Right, yeah, they're all just
yeah.
sucking up to him.
And then like Jim, finally tries to take a stance. He's like, no, I'm not a fan. But when he
I
starts
like
to
to
see
play,
that, like,
right.
yeah, immediately when it goes south, he's like, I'm more of a player. Dwight, noticing obviously this rift between the two of them, he's like,
Oh yeah,
never
he's like,
mentioned
oh
it."
yeah, he jumps on it, and I do like that he he deserves it, right? Jim deserves it. And Dwight's like, he knows he has him,
Right,
and he's
right.
just gonna like dig into it as best he can.
So what ends up happening is that they decide to play soccer after work in the parking lot. The women are in dresses, all the dudes are in suits or whatever. This isn't the basketball game that was organized. People
Right.
come with duffel bags and can give each other nice sanitary baths in the sink. But they decide to set up some cones and play some football in the parking lot there.
Right. Yep. Yeah, it's it was crazy though. As you can see him, they wrote or they drew a
like a center field.
Like a sitter, right?
Yeah.
So according to the internets, Jenna Fisher's shoe size is an 8. I don't know if that's men's or women's, but
If you're Quentin Tarantino or similarly into feet, there you go. You're welcome. Happy early Christmas. 8. I don't really know. I don't understand the ratio of women's feet to men's feet.
no, that's why I'm looking it up right now.
There it is.
I don't either. I just know I'm a 10.5 in Nikes because they do like switch, you know.
Guys, man, I'm 14, Jacob.
Well,
That is my shoe size.
you're a big dude.
I feel
So
like
it looks like it's 2. It's +2 from men's to women. So men's size 4 is a 6, a 5 is a 7, 6 is an 8, etc., etc., etc.
Wait, so women's shoe sizes are larger compared to the men's counterpart
Right.
of the similar size?
Mm-hmm. So
Not to go
either
into the whole thing, man, but this is the problem with women's clothing. Because by that rationale, Ryan's saying that Pam's got a size 10 men's means it's a size 12 in women.
no. Right,
Other way.
right. No, you're right.
That's
You're right.
crazy. So there's going to be some lady walking around with size 12 feet, and I'm size 14.
So
And
that
people are
would-
going to think our feet are almost the same size. That is a travesty, and I want to know who I should be writing letters to.
Yeah, so there you go. So either she has a men's size 6 shoe or a women's size 10 shoe, depending. So she has a women's size 8, she's got a men's 6. So she does, I mean,
I couldn't even tell you what the average foot size is for a woman. I don't even know for dudes. Not big into feet. Again, Quentin Tarantino, great guy to have in this conversation. He was busy this week, though. Couldn't get him on.
I didn't know that was a thing.
We're sending DMs all the time, you know.
No, I didn't know.
Oh, the women's feet thing.
Yes.
Yeah, of course you knew about my relationship with Quentin Tarantino.
Oh, wait a second. So according to this, it's the other way around, where women's are 2 sizes smaller than men's.
Okay, all right. I still have.
I don't know,
about women's
but
sizing.
apparently it's the average size. Oh no, I just read this wrong. Never mind.
Oh my God. I can't. This is the most misinformation we've ever delivered. On this
Okay,
show.
American women, on the average, this is from USA Today, wear a size 8 shoe. American men, size 10.5. So I am exactly average for men,
Okay,
at least in terms of Nikes.
great.
Because like in Pumas, I have to wear like 11.5 because they're cut funny. But okay, so we are
German shoes.
way off
Yeah,
topic.
we're off topic. Okay, so Ryan is now part of the Michael Scott Paper Company, and we are heading to our investor meeting, right? Investment meeting. We are meeting with what is this woman's name?
It's his Nana. I don't remember her name though.
Nana. Yeah, she does have a name, but essentially it's the joke is that it's his grandmother, but the way it's pitched to the team there is that it is a woman who invests in local business, right?
Right.
So it sounds good to the whole team, and they're good, and they show up, and Michael does an impassioned speech about how each member of the team brings something special and unique, and he really,
Right.
as a successful doctor in his home country, he gave it all up to become one of the best lipofedrine salesmen in the world or something.
Right, and it's one of those things where he, like, you could see him selling, and he,
Yeah.
like, you could tell he's practiced, and he's just hitting every beat. Because listening to his pitch, it sounds really good,
Yeah,
on
until they
the
start asking
surface,
questions. Yeah.
assuming no financials or anything else, just on the surface, you've got former VP of a paper company, 15 years of experience as a regional manager of a paper company, a very, a sales guy with a good track record,
Right.
and Pam, who is
Well,
a
but
go-getter
but she's from Dunder Mifflin, which is like the top paper company or whatever.
in the
It's all
area,
Dunder.
right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, on the surface, it sounds like a great deal, and then his grandmother just starts shitting on him all over the place. What's your mission statement? How much money do you have? Da, 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 da. All things she should be asking.
Well, that's the thing. It's not shitting yet. Those are really regular questions that he fudges up so poorly that then she has to shit on him. She takes down her adult diaper and deuces right over all of his dreams. More poop humor because you guys loved it so much from last week.
Y'all will never be able to watch that episode again without having a mental picture of Nana shitting all on top of Michael's face.
Well, I didn't say face. I said dreams, but now the face is in your thoughts, guys. Old lady poop. But yeah, no. So she's like, this is a bad investment. I mean, because because I think what the straw is that breaks the camel's back is the old dude in that group says it's not a very large investment. They should just do it anyways,
Right.
And then Michael's like, actually, I'm going to need a little bit more. And then that's when Nana's like,
Well, he
"All
says,
right."
does he say a lot more?
He does. He's like quite, it's like a substantial amount more.
So you kind of get the feeling that he was like, hey, I'm looking for like $1,000 or something, right?
Right.
Instead of him, but he really is looking for like $10,000.
Right. So it doesn't work out. Doesn't get the money. They're all in the PT Cruiser heading back to, I guess, Michael's condo, where Vikram starts to talk about how Nana had some good points. And what kind of name is Nana?
Right. And once he realizes it means grandma's like, oh, your grandmother wouldn't even invest in you? Please drop me back off this, the telemarketing place.
So Vikram tries to give him a talking to, but they pull away, and it's a whole thing. And we end up back at Michael's condo, where Pam starts to lose hope. She was the beacon in the beginning,
Right.
but she starts to reflect on the actual decisions she's made by quitting her job where she worked with her fiance. She was in no danger of losing her job, realistically speaking. Probably.
Oh, no, she definitely would have kept her job. I mean, there's.
Yeah, right. And no one had problems with her job, like her doing it. She was exactly where she needed to be to maintain the status quo. But she was feeling impulsive and she wanted to change things up. And honestly, I think it's something that from this point moving forward, and actually even from before, like art school, like a art show and stuff,
Right, she has this very insightful speech about how she just gets bored, then tries to do way too much.
Right. And again, we've seen Pam kind of go through this now for the past couple seasons where she's really not super stoked to be a receptionist anymore, There's no upward mobility for her in that particular position.
Right.
I guess presumably she could get elevated to corporate to be a more personal assistant like David Wallace's assistant Kelly. And I don't even know if that's more lucrative though.
I mean, yeah, some executive high-level executive assistants make, twice what I make. They make,
Right.
Some of them, for the really big wigs, make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year.
Right.
Or more, you can make very good money if you're very good at it and don't want a life.
Right. Yeah, well, that's exactly it too. Yeah. So, I don't know, but I get it. And she doesn't like it, and she wanted to try something new, and she felt comfortable with Michael, but now she's seeing it all fall apart.
Right.
Within the day, right?
And one thing, then Michael, he saves the day. He's like, "Look, we quit. We got nothing. We can do this, or you've got to go look for another job. One of the two, right?"
Yeah, well, he does that, and I don't know. To me, it seems like a little shitty too. He's all like, "We can make Michael Scott Paper Company work, or that's it." Like, obviously, there's other
Well,
options.
I mean,
So you're trying
it
to
was
get
very
another
much
job.
Cortez and burning of the ships. You have to go forward now.
Oh, sure, right. I mean, yeah, that worked out really well for him too, right?
Well,
Right, but it's the same kind of strategy he's using. Yeah.
Right. What's funny though is so when they get to Michael's condo, there's something I don't think I've caught before. Is Ryan asks about him having TV, and Michael says he has cable and satellite as a
As a
backup.
backup. Right.
Like, what? I mean,
Yeah,
we
I
know
mean-
that Michael has a hard time with money.
He has
Well,
a
this
lot
is-
of monkey problems.
Yeah, so this is a prime example because each one of those is probably $100 a month, and you know he's getting the movie channels, so he's probably paying like $300-400 a month for TV.
Right. Yep. But he loves his TV.
I mean, I love my TV too, but I'm a cord cutter. I mean, come on.
No, it's true. Yeah, no, it's well, he doesn't know the other ways.
Right.
But it's nuts. Right. And hopefully that's not Michael Scott Paper Company expenses that are
Yeah.
as
Well,
as that
technically,
was
it's his
your own
money,
office.
right? So,
Right.
so we see him calling because he gets the letter saying that he can't run a business out of his house.
Right.
So he ends up calling Billy, who we haven't seen in a while. You know the
Yeah.
and we see the hall closet that becomes cafe disco, and the Dwight Schrute's gym for muscles, and the play area for the kids. There's
Right.
all sorts of stuff that it becomes later on, but it's a new location for the office.
Yeah. Fun fact: this is the last appearance in any fashion of Billy Merchant, this character.
Right. Well, by the end of, if I've got my timeline, yeah, by the end of next season, Dwight owns the building.
Right. So there's no reason for him to show up anymore.
Right.
So there you go. Yeah, no. So this is the first time we've seen this space that will become so important to the office moving forward.
Oh yeah, gotta have your cafe disco.
You just gotta have it. So yeah, so they get it, and it's a space, and it's not much, but it's something, and it's I think it inspires Pam a little bit more because now it seems to be a little bit more of a serious endeavor as opposed to Michael sitting in his robe with no underpants on making French toast.
Right. Yeah, I would agree.
So is the last shot is them putting the sign up, right? The lettering.
Right. They're putting up the lettering, and Charles comes down. Is like, "You're back," and Michael's like, "Oh yeah, you can't take me down." And I open a can of whoop ass on Dunder Mifflin, a 6-pack of whoop ass.
Yeah, and Charles walks away, and Pam gets a little fierce too. She doesn't really say much, but she's giving some stern looks, and I know
Oh
you're a
yeah,
fan
she's
of the
throwing
eyes.
some shade. She's throwing
Yeah,
some
yeah.
shade.
But it's nice, and there they are, and we didn't go back to the actual soccer game, but they are playing, and we find out that Jim has volunteered himself to be a striker rather.
Yes.
So someone who's going to be handling the ball a lot, and he's saying he wants to pass the ball a lot. So we see him.
Well, we say he doesn't even want to be near the
doesn't even
ball.
want to be near. Yeah. So much so that he's on the opposing team of Charles. Charles is coming at him, presumably to score a goal, and instead of blocking the shot, which isn't necessarily his job, but you use your chest, whatever, headbutt the ball away if one were experienced in the ways of soccer. But Jim takes another route, an
And
alternate route,
ducks.
right? Gets Phyllis pegged right in the face with the soccer ball. And I like how Charles is able to make everybody mad at Jim for ducking when Charles is the one who wailed that ball,
Oh yeah, that was no play kick there. That was some
Yeah.
Some vicious stuff. That
I mean, because just what was it? I think it was this season also, but when Pam chucks that football at Meredith's head, we're not mad at Toby, who didn't catch the ball. We're mad at Pam, who threw the ball. So we should be mad at the kicker. It should be Charles. Just like my women's clothing, I will be writing a letter also.
All right, so what are you gonna give this episode? I think we've pretty much exhausted it.
Yeah, no, this is a good one. I think this is each episode is getting better in this episode of our show. So I give this episode a 3.7 out of 5s. We got Vikrams.
See, this is the ultimate bridge episode. Like, it's the bridge between a bridge and
Right.
like, so I'm just like, it feels like if they had done it as a 2-parter, it would have been better, or even like a 3-parter. Like, if you had done New Boss 2 weeks and this, yeah, well, Dream Team.
Dream Team,
It's like
yeah.
one episode, it would make a lot more sense than having individual episodes. So this is, I'm giving this a 2 out of 5. Square-shaped French toast. Because each episode in this block just picks up where the other one leaves off. You know, like directly where it leaves off.
Well, yeah, in a much more direct fashion.
Mm-hmm.
But all right. So your low rating is because the naming pattern's bad?
No, I'm saying it doesn't
Or
need
you wish they aired closer?
or something, or make it more of an individual episode, because it really is just a bridge episode, is all it is. It's not a bad episode, but I think it suffers from its
Sounds
placement.
like you think it's bad.
It's not a
Sounds
great
like you think
episode.
it's
It's just,
shit.
yeah.
All right, well, that's another. That's 3 letters. I'm huge money on postage this month, Jacob.
All right, so lastly for today, we have Michael Scott Paper Company, written by Justin Spitzer and directed by Gene Stupinski.
Now, fun fact, when you stepped away earlier, Jacob, I totally botched the introduction to Dream Team because I erroneously attributed the credits of this episode with the credits of
Oops.
that episode.
Well, did you
And as I
correct
was saying-
yourself?
I did, and I said Jacob will never hear this because I don't think he listens this far when he's editing. But I might as well cop to it now. And I
No,
came to
well-
that conclusion because I thought about Ryan, and I was like, oh, shit, we don't even know that Ryan's a thing yet until this episode plays out.
I listen to every minute of every podcast I'm a part of.
All right. Well, before you post it, though?
Not before I post it, but
That's the
after.
thing. Monday afternoon, you would have been listening to it, and you would have been loving the chemistry, and then I come in and I ruin the integrity of the show by my error. Whatever, it's fine.
Well, I
Okay.
mean, some inside baseball for our listeners. I don't edit anything out
There it
of
is.
the episodes. I mean, it is like you hear everything. All right, so it starts out with Michael rolling up in his PT Cruiser.
It's Britney, bitch.
It's Britney bitch, but he's listening to Lady Gaga,
That's correct. That is accurate.
which I did not get when this aired because I did not listen to Gaga at the time.
But now you're a huge fan. I think you're one of her monsters. I think is Al's phrase.
Well, I would say I'm a medium-sized fan, so I'm like,
You're an average size fan based on your shoe size, there, sir.
I don't whatever like the middle layer of Pokemon evolution is. That's the fan I am.
Okay. You're the metapod of Gaga fans.
Sure, yeah, whatever that word is. So we see Michael trying to parallel park. There's like 5 spots in between him and this other car, and he backs into it. He's like, nope, too close. And then he backs into a super tight spot that used to be his. He's like, you know what? I'm not letting, and no, he pulls straight into it. He's like, I'm not letting him take my dignity away. That's like
Right.
what he's doing in this episode.
Fun fact for that particular scene, one of the times that Steve Carell tried to crawl over the back of that PT Cruiser, he rips his pants.
They should have kept that.
They should have kept it, but yeah.
He's
so
got his
that's
giant
thing.
thing of cheesy poofs.
Well, because he does that thing too. That's like I love when they do it. Is when Michael is just like a little bit out of his depth, and like he's in a weird 5 seconds, so he curses, but he just says the F word. Mm-hmm. So like in Benihana Christmas when he's trying to ride his bike into the office, right? Mm-hmm. And his thing hits it, and he's like having fun, but it's just a little weird. He's like beep. I could see that similar situation where he's trying to climb over this PT Cruiser and has his profane moments just because he ripped his pants wide open.
And the cheesy poofs. We've all eaten way too many work cheesy poofs.
Yeah. So are the cheesy poofs? Are they Are they introduced in this episode?
Yeah, you see him
That's-
holding it like he's carrying it when he's getting out of his PT Cruiser.
But they don't do their trick shots yet. right?
No,
That's not
no,
something
no, they don't do that. Yeah, until like I'm guessing next episode because we haven't seen that yet.
But so the intro of this episode, aside from that, like the musical intro, is like the only time I can think of where they had a unique intro for a single episode, like in terms of totally reshot.
Right. And I remember watching this when it aired and thinking, what the hell's going on? Like, it really felt like they were, and I'm sure they did it on purpose, but it felt like they were transitioning away from The Office to this new Michael-centric thing against Dunder
Right.
Mifflin.
Yeah, yeah.
Like-
Yeah, and it only plays during this episode because presumably you could see it playing for all of the episodes where Michael Scott Paper Company is a thing.
Right, right. But yeah, I'm pretty sure this is the only one.
Yeah. And we see the only person we don't see live in the opening credits is Jim, who is seen via photograph.
Right.
But we see Michael.
From
we see Danny.
the golf episode.
That's right. And then we see Dwight because for whatever reason he's using the restroom downstairs in the lobby, and he almost walks into the Michael Scott Paper Company as opposed to the men's room.
Right.
Yeah, because they have a cafe down there where the security desk is, but that's not till Dwight takes over, right?
No, but there's stuff down there.
There's stuff down there. Yeah,
Yeah.
It's just a little weird that he does that.
Well, I
Anyways.
mean, the bathroom's not that big up there, right?
Right. Yeah.
And so, I mean, I could see that happening because there's definitely been times where I've had to use bathrooms on other floors because of, or the bathroom was being cleaned or whatever. So,
Sure. Right. Yeah, that's a
So-
good point. So we're at the two companies. Michael Scott Paper Company has been fully established, but they don't have any customers yet.
right. And okay, so another interesting thing is, like, we assume because the way he's acting that Ryan and Pam haven't seen the space yet,
Right.
and it's fully set up. So you assume that Michael set this up like over the weekend or something.
Yeah. Right, because they haven't seen the space with the furniture, right? Because I think they saw
Right.
it at the end of last episode. That's when they say this could work. But yeah, I mean, so it's the first time we see that there's a poker table that will work as Ryan and Pam's desk. There's the broken copier from upstairs that is now downstairs.
Right.
It has trash written on it, if I recall. Yeah, I mean, it's a tight space. It's not great. Not
It's
ideal. And of course-
It's 165 square feet, so it's roughly 10 by 16.
And there's also pipes that seem to be directly running from the men's room upstairs.
Right.
I don't know. I don't think that is accurate based on the shape of the building. So I guess the pipes must run down to the floor and then horizontally till they get to that room.
Right, which doesn't make a lot of sense,
'Cause
but
presumably they're closer to the entryway of Vance Refrigeration's office because they're right next to the elevator.
right. Yeah, presumably.
Yeah. So the men's room should be way off to the side. But
Right, and
It's fine.
that's why like if you look at a lot of buildings, if you look at the floors, the bathrooms are on top of each other so they can have one set of pipes.
for the plumbing. Yeah.
Right. So and often it's by the elevator for ease of access and crap too. But so yeah, that really doesn't make sense. But we do hear Toby later
On
talking
a
to
phone
somebody,
call. Yeah.
which is something I never picked up before. But he asks, "Does blue go with tan?" I don't know. I'm trying something new, and I don't really wear a lot of colors.
I know just how boring Toby is.
which actually sets up. What episode is it? It's Casual Friday. So like it sets up a
Right.
joke for that.
Yeah. Actually, because Casual Friday is the episode where the Michael Scott Paper Company team is back at Dunder Mifflin too, I think.
Right. Yeah, it's their first episode back. Right, so we, as always, Kelly and Angela are still trying to get with Charles, and Kelly's just sitting on Jim's desk, just looking at Charles, talking nonsense to Jim.
Right.
And, and so he says, Kelly, and, Kelly pops in. He's like, yes, Charles, you wanted me. And then Aaron, first appearance of Aaron, she pops in. Her name is also Kelly.
Right.
So he's like, all right, I'm going to call you Kapoor, and I'm going to call you Hannon.
Right.
So we learn, and she's like, oh, well, can we go by my middle name, which is Aaron, which I like more. So we learn that Kelly's full name is Kelly Aaron Hannon.
Yes, that's right. Kelly Aaron Hannon. That's right. Yep.
So, which is, interesting.
Yeah.
I
It's
don't
never brought up again.
never
She's
brought
only
up.
ever referred to as Aaron. Yeah.
She never goes. She gets called Kelly once in the entire run of the show.
Yeah, because even her, because later on we'll see her. Is it her stepbrother, or like her adopted brother, or something like that? Or is it her
No,
biological brother?
it's the. They're no relations, but they were in a bunch of different homes together.
Right. And I forget what maybe she doesn't refer to her by a name. Maybe it's all nicknames. But even then, Kelly isn't brought up again as a name for her.
Right. And we're also right around the. Wow, I think it's something I did not realize, but Aaron is around for more than half of the episodes, if you go by episode number.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of crazy because she seems so. Like, she seems like Amy Adams in this episode, Like, she seems
Right.
like she could be in a stretch of them and then she'll be gone, but she's just there as like a romantic foil for Andy and Dwight later.
Right, and she's not in a ton of, she's not a really big presence till next season.
Right, that's right.
But it did make me wonder if she was brought in and then kept.
Right, because she was well received or she jived well or something.
Right. And another question is, because in this episode, she's got really, dark brown hair.
She does, yep.
So is she naturally that color, or is she a natural redhead?
Well, because in Kimmy Schmidt, she's obviously a redhead.
Right.
And later on in this show, too, she's a redhead. I think she is a redhead, and she just does that thing where she dyes it brighter than it really is or something. But I don't know. You looking it up? So when I'm sitting here and I'm looking at Jacob's screen, he does this looking off into the distance thing, and that's when I realize he's looking into a monitor after doing a Google search. So you people who don't look at the YouTube channel also miss out on these concentrating Jacob faces.
It's not coming up quickly, so I'm not going to bother. But so yeah, he just kind of threw
there's
me
a
off.
picture of her in the intro for Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, and it's the only shot of Ellie Kemper as a child in that show.
Uh-huh.
And she's like wearing like a cowboy outfit or something, giving a thumbs up, and she's got pretty bright red hair in that shot. So I imagine they weren't dyeing her hair at the age of 7.
Well, yeah, but my older brother, he used to have fire engine red hair, but now it's almost like the color of Aaron's hair in this episode.
Right.
So
I feel like also not because this is like a big production, 5th season of one of NBC's biggest shows at the time. Maybe Ellie Kemper also dyed her hair, because I think redheads are kind of like a particular. I don't know. There's a thing. Even Pam, who is supposed to be considered a redhead, also has really muted red hair.
right. And you
So I
never
don't know
know,
if they can take
if
the
we looked
holidays.
at her, IMDb, we might see that she was in something else nearby. Maybe she just had a different hair color for that.
Well, let me tell you, the first time I ever saw Ellie Kemper, she was man, do you remember Donald Glover's old comedy group on YouTube?
I've seen one or two of them, yeah.
I forgot what they're called. But there's this one bit, and it's really awkward. But essentially, it's a handheld camera POV of a boy looking down at Ellie Kemper, who is being very suggestive in saying that she would like to fillet his penis. But the bit goes on, and that she doesn't really understand what dudes like. So she just describes super uncomfortable things that she will do, like use teeth and sandpaper and dryness and terribleness, right? And the guy's like, no, that doesn't sound good at all, and she doesn't get it or whatever. Anyways,
The worst.
that's the first time I ever saw her. So it was a bit, and I read in subsequent interviews after that it was really important that she wasn't just remembered as blowjob girl, which may be what that YouTube video is called. Search at your own risk, though.
Yeah, the one I remember most from Donald Glover's thing was the bro rape episode.
Bro rape, yeah, bro rape's classic.
That's probably
Childish Gambino references bro rape often, which is his alter ego that he got by putting his name in a Wu-Tang name generator. I am full of TILs from Reddit today. Okay, so now that we have talked for 20 minutes about other stuff, we come back to the show. So Kelly Kapoor, we find out Kelly's middle name is Rajanaganda, which Kevin is like, I thought Rajanaganda was a boy's name. It's also really great.
Yeah, and I also feel sorry for Erin because she immediately starts getting hit on by Andy and Dwight.
Yeah, you know, I felt like when I first watched it, I thought it was kind of funny, but like as I was watching it just a couple days ago, I was like, this is awkward.
Yeah,
Like
it's very weird.
Derek comedy, that's what it's called. But yeah, no, presumably she's also very young. She was 25 if we assume she started the job around the same time Pam would have started the job.
Right.
So it's this 25-year-old girl talking to these two 30-something-year-old dudes who are like clearly like trying to get up in her business.
Right, and she's got this look on her face like of pure fear. Like she just looks afraid. And like I'm just part of me is still like, how the fuck did she date Andy? Like just how? Like it's not.
Yeah, well, you know what it is? I don't think it's like just fear. I think there is also some Michael Scott innocence, which is how I think they developed that father-daughter relationship later. Because I also think she's naive enough to not fully understand that she's being hit on. And I think that's what makes me feel uncomfortable. Is that she thinks these dudes are like being nice and friendly, but like they're like half chub away, you know? Messed up.
Well, I mean, definitely for Andy, at least according to Dwight.
That's right. Yeah,
If I'm not mistaken, I saw a little blood rush into your
Yeah.
penis.
Yeah, that's great phrasing from Dwight. Yeah. Yeah, so there's Dwight tells his creepy ghost story and pokes her shoulder. Andy does that terribly awkward dance, I'm in your way
Hey, doesn't he
thing.
call her McGonagall? Like, isn't it somebody from Harry Potter?
Yeah, yep, that is. Yep, I forget that. I didn't know that he referenced that, but that is definitely a lady from Harry Potter who turns into a cat. FYI. Okay. So that's all happening. It's terrible.
Right.
Back at the Michael Scott Paper Company, there's a little bit of a job discourse because Michael needs a copy of a flyer, and Ryan and Pam refuse to do it.
Well, you're right. And this is like, we get like full on douchebag Ryan. So he's like, look, and so he's like, you're better at than me. And she's like, what? He's like, what? How's that a put down? I just said you were good at something. And he's like, I could run GM, but I can't fix a car. He could not run GM, obviously, but
Yeah.
it's just like, he's like, one's not better than the other. She's like, well, one sure sounds better than the other.
Yeah. I gotta say though, I think this is so Ryan, like Pokemon, has phases and evolutions, right?
Right.
So I would say Temp Ryan is my favorite Ryan. Proper Temp Ryan, right?
First Temp Ryan.
Yeah, season 1.
Phase
season
1
2.
Ryan.
Right. Even full-time sales Ryan in season 3, also fine. I think they are. That's just a natural phases of Ryan until he becomes promoted, right?
Right.
Then post Thailand Ryan is my second favorite Ryan. The bleached hair. He is much more like a college kid,
All
right?
disheveled and
Yeah, really great. But then we've got, VP of Sales Ryan, who has a beard, and then we also have Hipster Ryan,
right.
and those are the big sweeping moments of Ryan. So this
And he's pretty much hipster Ryan season 6 through now.
Right. And there's sprinkles of Ryan phase 3 here, where he just shows kind of like a lack of care and kind of like an overly youthful outlook on things or whatever. But I like Ryan coming with a bagged lunch and leaving work to go catch a ride with his mom. It's a great one.
Yep, yep.
But Pam
Right.
doesn't want to do it because she doesn't want to fall into that secretary.
Right. Which sucks because she likes making copies. They come out all warm.
It's terrible. And then we also kind of explore the tightness of that space.
Right. You
a
hear all
couple
these
times.
different phone conversations, and P is not as much fun without Jim, apparently. And she's also
Yeah.
being a giant bee.
Giant B. P is also a 6 in New York and a 7 in Scranton, which I think I would up those numbers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think she'd probably like an 8 in New York, and probably like a 9 or 10 in Scranton.
But she's a 10 on this podcast every day.
There it is. Boom. Add it to Jacob's wiki. Okay. Yeah. So Andy and Dwight are fighting over Aaron here, and then of course we get the famous duet, the banjo acoustic guitar duet. It sounds pretty good, although I gotta say, and maybe so, there are instances where you care about things that are too corporate and boring to me, right, Jacob?
Okay.
There's an instance here which may be too musical that you may find boring. But Dwight is playing his guitar and Aaron's impressed, and then Andy comes in with his banjo to impress Aaron, and he comes in a totally different key. Still playing the same song, but different key. I figured it's because Ed Helms knows this particular solo in this particular key, but it bugged the shit out of me. I was like, why? What are you doing, man? Because then later on he plays with Dwight, and it sounds right. But just the solo, out of key. What's going on? Letter number 4.
But Andy also likes to go high as well, with his voice
true.
and everything else. So it might just be an extension.
He wants to really showcase his falsetto.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, that's fair. You sold me. Never mind. I retract that letter.
And it's not the first time that he's tried to impress a
A lady
girl
with a banjo and
with
a
a
falsetto.
banjo. And if I remember my trivia right, the banjo is the only instrument to originate in the United States.
Well, all right. Nobody fact check that. Let's just take it as truth and move on. Let us be right one time on this show, please.
All right, so Michael Scott Paper Company is having a pancake lunch.
Mm-hmm.
Why a pancake lunch? I don't know. Why not like a lunch?
Right.
But Michael is making paper-shaped
Pancakes.
pancakes.
Just big rectangular pieces of pancake, basically.
Yes. And, Creed's like, these are awful. You got to make them circles so they cook right. And he's like, I don't want these. Pulls like 3 or 4 of them out of his jacket. Puts them down.
Thick,
And
stacked pancakes, yeah.
Meredith is like, I'm going to take these for my kid. Not kids, kid.
Right.
And so we keep hearing about this second child who I think is just like fully retconned at some point.
Yeah, I'm looking it up. Let's see. So we could keep talking, but Meredith,
And so
oh, here we go. Her daughter Wendy, the good one, lives with her ex-husband,
okay.
which we find out in the webisodes, The Accountants. So if you haven't checked those out, you should, because they're funny.
I've never, I meant to when they first aired, but I never did.
Yeah.
So sort of the B storyline in this episode is Jim's rundown. Charles is like, hey, I want to give you a rundown. I want a rundown of your clients, So Jim spends this entire episode trying to figure out what the hell a rundown is.
So what is a rundown, Jacob?
I would assume, because rundown's a pretty innocuous term. It could be a bunch of things, but I would just assume it would be like clients, basically just like stuff about the clients.
Like a quick sheet of his whole customer list, right? Like company name, company size, average volume of sales, last time ordered, contact info, that kind of thing, right?
Right. Yeah. That's what I assume. My wife asserted that this was because Minor didn't want he wants, sent to somewhere in corporate, that he was like gonna fire Jim and just outsource his clients to other people. That's what my
I
wife
see.
thought, which not the worst thought ever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because presumably he didn't ask any of the other sales reps to do it.
Right. And there's no way there's no way in hell Wallace would have let Miner fire Jim. Wallace
Yeah,
likes Jim way
it's
too much.
yeah. What's that episode? I don't know, but 2 episodes from now, when they start doing the negotiation about the end of Michael Scott Paper Company, it seems like that's the first time David finds out that Charles doesn't trust Jim.
Right, right.
Right, because he tries to bring in Dwight as his number two for that meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And so
so yeah.
we meet a guy. So Michael does all this stuff for the luncheon and everything, and someone asks for a card, and they don't have cards. You would have figured that Michael would have had cards made.
I mean, even Vistaprint will give you free business cards using a template, and you just have to pay for shipping.
Right. I mean, granted, maybe he wouldn't go to Staples, but I got business cards, like 100 business cards made same day, multicolor, 100 of them for like $12.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I just think it's one of those weird oversights by Michael, because Michael doesn't seem like he'd be the guy that wouldn't have that.
Right. But yeah, I think that is exactly what it is. It's an oversight. Like Michael just is like in so deep he doesn't even realize,
Right. And so we see Pam, like, everything is looking really down. Like, she's annoyed with Ryan and Michael, and she goes back upstairs, like, hey, Charles, can I have my old job back? And all this other stuff.
Yeah, it's real weird. And Charles is like not even going to put up a pretense for it. He's like, Aaron has your job. That's what it is. Thanks for trying.
Right. And so she goes back downstairs, and the phone rings, and Ryan won't answer it, and she picks it up, and it's someone wanting to buy paper. The first
Right.
customer of the Michael Scott Paper Company.
Yeah.
So I kind of wonder what would have happened if Ryan had picked up the phone and made the sale. Does it change the course of history? Like, does Ryan ever make a sale? Ever? In the entire course of the show? Because we don't know that he does
That's a
at
good
Michael
point.
Scott Paper Company.
Yeah. Presumably, he never made a sale prior to him being promoted, right? And then at the short time Michael Scott Paper Company's there, and ultimately too, like to your point, because Pam made that sale, Ryan is the one who doesn't get to keep his job when they get absorbed by Dunder Mifflin.
Right.
Right. So presumably he didn't step up there either.
Right, because he went back to being a temp.
Right. Right.
And I mean, I don't know the exact timeline, but yeah. Well, we don't know if he made sales in season 3 or not. They never
Right,
say
right.
explicitly one way or the other, so he might have. So it could be wrong, but Ryan's douchiness kept him from going back into sales.
I mean, but he does say even in this episode that he was bad at sales. Oh no, he says it when he's the boss. He tells Michael, he's like, I was bad at sales, but I'm good at managing people.
Right.
So-
Another interesting thing we learned is that Ryan has asthma because he has an
Uh-huh.
asthma inhaler on the poker table. So that's a fun
Right.
little. And there's a great quote from Michael. Like, who would have thought the thing that would save this company would be work?
Yeah.
And so we close out the episode with Andy trying to convince Dwight that every song is better a cappella.
Right. I know, and like he doesn't even provide like points to prove his statement.
Right.
They just go, Enter Sandman. Oh, way better a cappella.
Wait.
And that's it. Everybody
Warren.
just moves on. Yeah.
Cherry pie.
Oh my gosh. Let me just try to see if there's any worth notes. Let's see. Oh, here's some goofs, Jacob.
Okay.
In the episode Goodbye Toby, Michael says every year he receives money from his grandmother, and in recent years he has been receiving multiple checks.
Right. We talked about that. Like, is it the same grandmother?
Right.
So, or it's a retcon, one of the two.
Dwight tells Aaron that there's a ghost in the office. He stated that a prostitute was murdered on the floor of the building in 1816, but according to an earlier episode, Scranton was founded until 1866. Okay, but that's like, who cares?
Right. There's no way that building was built in the 1800s. No way.
Right. No way.
Unless it was just like he was referring to like the site.
Right.
Used to be a brothel.
The Evite information for the Michael Scott Paper Company Pancake Luncheon is shown on Michael's computer. It says the event is on Saturday, yet everyone in the building is at work.
Nice.
And then last one is Dwight and Andy incorrectly sing the chorus to Take Me Home Country Roads as Take Me Home Country Roads to the Place I Belong, rather than the correct Country Roads Take Me Home to the Place I Belong. I feel like I just read the same thing twice.
I'm sure you did. So what are you giving this episode?
It's switched. It's Take Me Home Country Roads is what they saying. It should be Country Roads Take Me Home.
Okay.
Okay, what would I give it? I'm going to give this episode a 3.4 out of 5 square pancakes.
Bitch.
Sorry.
I'm
That's what you
gonna,
get for asking me first, bro.
all right, so I'm gonna give this a 3.5 out of 5. I like this section of episodes where Michael's being more entrepreneurially, or whatever that word that I cannot say, and everything. It's 3.5 out of 5.
Scraps of paper.
Giant thing of cheesy poofs.
There we go.
All right, so we're part of the Broken Jars Broadcasting Network. You can find us at brokenjars.xyz. You can find our Patreon, patreon.com/Broken Jars. There's a bunch of fun rewards there. Mm-hmm. You can check out the newest show on the network, The Long Haul, if you're into gaming and have kids. It's about parenting and all that good stuff. We're on Reddit. So reddit.com/r/Dunder Mifflin. We'll be posting there. We also post on whatever our Reddit is, which I can never remember. If you want to email us, brokenjarsbroadcasting@gmail.com. You can hit me up on Twitter at Jacob Ingalls. Yeah. So all the links will be in the show notes down below. So yeah, check them out.
That's it.
All right,
That's all I got.
Bye, guys.